What's up, everyone? Welcome to Level 7. It's time for another edition of the Agents of Fandom podcast. Blah. We got a live show today, and we're going to be doing it all. We're talking Marvel with the Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania trailer. We are talking DC reviewing Black Adam, and so we had to bring in a special guest today who also does it all, one of the hosts of Comic Book Nation. Kofi, how are you doing today? Kofi Outlaw is joining us.
Hey everybody, am I coming through? I always feel nervous because I feel like I'm gonna bring our curse of like crashing everybody's stream everywhere I go. So I hope everybody hears me live and this is all happening real. But thank you for having me.
So far, so good.
Yeah, so far so good. You sound clean. We are streaming live on YouTube and Twitch, just in case we got to migrate to the YouTube chat if the Twitch feed fails. Like
you guys have
Comic Book
lasted more
Nation
than a
every now and
minute.
then. Like
Yeah, you guys have lasted more than a minute on both, and I'm so jealous now.
like I don't know.
There's a
what
first
you guys
time for everything.
I don't know. I don't know what you guys have, what kind of beef it is with Twitch, but YouTube seems to always work nice and clear on the Comic Book Nation feeds, at least.
Yeah, it's an ongoing adventure. You build these big studios and you get all this good corporate backing, and then you got to figure out the one internet cord that somebody's got to hold just so we get our live streams going. Classic stuff. That's how we like to do it. So
Yes,
that's how we survive as a show, by keeping our budget so low that our internet just barely works. And I think they just think we're a line item of like straws or something. I don't know.
Even if the internet's sometimes spotty, the coverage is top tier, some of the very best you'll get in the industry. So we're happy Kofi's joining us, but also I'm joined as always by my co-host Garrett Blaney. How you doing, pal?
I'm good. I've been crushing the Marvel Snap lately. If you don't know what that is, it is a new mobile phone game, a turn-based card game, and it's super fun. And we've had our own little Agents of Fandom Marvel Snap group chat where we're all talking about it. A couple of us have been just grinding it out, and I've needed that. It's been a nice escape. So shout out Marvel Snap. I just had to give that shout out real quick.
We've been streaming that on our page as well. Connor had a stream on there going, talking strategy, giving some tips. Kofi, have you downloaded this game? Have you played it? Because it is wildly fun and addicting.
No, my co-host on Comic Book Nation, Matthew Aguilar, he does like all of that, like all our Marvel gaming. I have two kids, he just has one. And like, yeah, so my time is mostly spent doing other things. I can barely fit in all the Marvel, DC, anime, TV, movies, comic book reading, and everything else I got to do. So,
You
yeah,
got to rip it on
sadly,
toilet time. That's a toilet time
yeah.
thing.
No, I don't just go to the bathroom. I read comics on an iPad on the toilet and hope to God I can get that. I was about to say squeeze out, but that would have been gross. But get that 10 minutes in where I can just read a comic book these days. But
I respect
it's
that.
sad because I used to be I mean, I was a big gamer. I don't want to like sound like the old man on the podcast, but I was a big gamer once, and you know, yeah. But no, I have not gotten to this one yet. But this is why I do shows like this, so maybe I can get like good pointers on what I should probably be doing with my toilet time.
Well, I mean, I'll say for your sake, download it. It's so much fun. For your kids' sake, maybe don't. There's been so many times over the past few nights that like I'll be like, yeah, I'll play a couple rounds before I go to bed, and then next thing I know, my wife's asleep beside me, and it's been 2 hours, and I'm like, damn, it's been a minute. It's a lot of fun, but we'll continue to stream that on the Agents of Fandom Twitch and YouTube. If you're watching us on YouTube right now, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe. If you're watching on Twitch, grab yourself a sub, gift one for a friend. And if you're watching on both, you're my favorite person. Thank you for giving us that exposure, and you're the best. But let's start with this Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania trailer because they teased their Twitter page teased that it was going to be coming today, and it didn't disappoint. It was not the trailer we got uh, at the Comic Con, but it was still pretty exciting. And we know this because some of the parts got leaked, got reported on. We didn't get Kang saying, "You are an Avenger. Have I killed you before?" But it was still a pretty incredible trailer. Kofi, what did you think of it?
Whew, yeah, no, I think I was thrown because I had heard obviously for what we do, we got to hear a lot of secondhand descriptions. We got to hear people come back and be like, "Okay, here's everything," in like very hushed voices. All my Phase Zero crew people from comic books Phase Zero. Yeah, you got to hear Jamie Jirak like go really like nuts, or Brandon try to give you like the most quickest description and most accurate of these things, and so you go in with all these impressions in your head, and then this trailer was different. And I don't know if people know like what our job is like behind the scenes, but it can be a grind sometimes because there can be like nothing happening, and that's when I got to read like or write like, hey, Taylor Swift made a Marvel reference. In those days, like, you're staring out that window, like, how high up am I? But like on other days, things happen in like rapid succession where it's just like, yeah, the Ant-Man 3 trailer dropped. Oh my God, Henry Cavill says he's going to be Superman again officially. And then it's like, you're like a dog just running in circles because you're like, where do I go with all this? So it was a confusing day, and I can't ignore those two things happening in proximity. But yeah, I've always been a fan of the Ant-Man franchise, so I was happy to see this. I don't think that this trailer gave me the vibe that I thought. I think the one that people described in Comic Con sounded more like menacing Kang debut, the whole kill you line, giving people chills. This, from the music they chose to everything, was almost like was it what's that movie, Fantastic Voyage, where they go inside, or I'm just like mixing up. I'm too tired to remember my old movies. But yeah, like one of those old movies where they shrink down and go inside the body or something. Like they played up the adventure part of it, and going to this other world part of it, which I'm not against, because I think the quantum realm is and always has been one of the doper kind of untapped territories of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where we can do some fun storytelling and literally and figuratively like open up a new door to so many different things, right? And but yeah, this has me kind of intrigued about what they're going to do with the quantum realm, and how there is this whole kind of way they're playing it. I don't think I understood they were playing it up like as much. I knew Kang would be there, but like how there is this whole secret world that's been there with people, with its own society, Bill Murray running around, And as people have already put together a lot of the same kind of imagery of these rings that kind of link back to other Marvel movies like Shang-Chi and other things. So yeah, I think I just was kind of pleasantly intrigued, but I barely got time to think about it because then it was just like, where's Henry Cavill going next? Like, and and it was like 2 seconds, but that's the news cycle. But I will not lie and say that I am missing just seeing staples like Luis. I hope at the end of this movie, Luis is like a secret, like the final end credits cameo. It's just Luis like recounting what just happened in Ant-Man and the Lost Quantumania to some like friend on the street because I miss Michael Pena. But otherwise, I'm intrigued.
It needs to be a multiversal version of Luis telling like another version of some other Ant-Man
That'd be
tale,
fun.
and
Telling our
yeah,
Luis what happened.
yeah,
That'd be
yeah,
hilarious.
yeah. Who was it?
I
Did
would.
you tell me that, TJ?
Oh
Was it you
man,
who
that'd
told me
be
No,
great.
that?
no.
I heard that somewhere, but yeah, that would be
That'd be
hilarious.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, if I'm riding of Luis is somehow not in this movie, and Ryan in chat says if they delete the Kang saying you're an Avenger, have I killed you before scene, like they didn't include the Valkyrie licking a sword scene in Thor: Love and Thunder, we're also rioting. So I think those are both fair points. Garrett, what stuck out to you in this trailer before we get into theory mode? Was it Bill Murray? Was it older Cassie? Was it Michelle Pfeiffer back in action? What did you think of the Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania trailer?
Yeah, so similar to Kofi, I had heard some things about this movie previously, which kind of dampened my hype a little bit. And I try to typically, stay away from as much of that as I possibly can. Obviously, in the industry, like you said, certain things we have to run and know, but I knew way more than I usually do. And I have to say, this trailer turned a lot of that around for me. It got me way more hype than I expected it to be. Um, a lot of really cool visuals. But to answer your question specifically, I would say what stuck out to me initially was Michelle Pfeiffer and oh, that's Sonic or Obi. Um,
Yeah, anytime Shadow gets involved in the fight, things get a little crazy, and that's what's happening.
Classic. Those fictional
Oh,
characters.
I want to be in on this. Who? Wait, is this your pets?
The pets, yes.
Yeah.
Oh
So
man,
the
yeah.
first adopted dog that I had was Sonic, and then when we got a cat, added him to the family. He was Shadow, and they had a nice little blend. They were friends. They were nemesi, whatever that is. And then we started fostering, and we had a few great fosters. And then Obi-Wan joined the family. He was a foster fail because he's turns 5 years old in 1 week on Halloween, and he spent his first 4 years just living in the wild. And he's about 20 pounds and was very easy to train. He's just super lovable. He just attached right to us, and we couldn't let him go. So he's pretty great. Um, but before they so rudely interrupted, Garrett, this trailer took you by surprise. You enjoyed it.
Yes, yes. But what stuck out to me initially was Michelle Pfeiffer alluding to like her time in the quantum realm that she hadn't told the group yet, and so I think that there's probably some stuff there, and I think that was a really nice tease. And then, like you said, Kofi, and it was you, TJ, who pointed it out to me because unlike you, Kofi, I have another job that I work during the day, so my focus was distracted, so I didn't get all the nitty gritty details and stuff. But the agents of fandom Twitters were socials were posting some stuff about the rings and how there could be beacon connections there between the Shang-Chi post-credit scene, and so that is now kind of the main thing that's sticking in my head from the trailer.
On that note, shout out to Ryan Cortero, who's in the chat, a fellow agent of ours, for manning the social accounts lately and getting those trailers out and the tweets out, the posters out so quick lately. He has been absolutely crushing it. While Garrett's been on the work grind, and Ryan's been stepping in and making sure these posts have gotten out. So that's been fantastic. But yeah, let's talk about this theory because I didn't notice the rings until I saw a TikTok about it, and then it looked pretty close. And the first thing that popped into my mind was there's a beacon at the end of Shang-Chi 2. There is a signal that Cassie sets off into the quantum realm, and now we're seeing some rings. I'm wondering if that beacon was from the quantum realm. It got set off immediately when Cassie set off that signal, and maybe this is now happening at the same time as Shang-Chi. Those could be connected. That's basically where my head is at. I kind of want to focus on the more Ant-Man and Kang related theories as opposed to maybe MODOK related theories, because that's the one leak that I have seen is related to MODOK, and so I don't really want to be talking about that one too much. But
Oh yeah, I apologize. I did that one early. I got that one on day one. That
yeah,
was
exactly,
an actor
exactly.
made a Instagram fail posts, and
Yeah,
that was out of the bag. So yeah,
I
we can
think
move on from that one.
I think like I think that was the one I had accidentally seen like a long ass time ago
Oh, it was
too.
a
Like
long
that
time
was
ago.
yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
even like with that I remember seeing it in like a Patreon post for something that like popped up in my email that I didn't know it was would do, and that was a tough one for me. But I think this Shang-Chi like this Shang-Chi connection is very interesting. Like Kofi, if you're putting your money on it right now, do you think that's the same beacon?
I'm gonna be honest on this one. I've been like racking my brain all day, and I knew I was coming on here, and I was like, I gotta get something good thought up. But I'm like listening to the other fans on this one. I have no idea like what, because I feel I know a lot of old Marvel history, but I feel like this is a spin on so many things that they're gonna probably compress, and everything from like quantum bands to like whatever else is out there that they might just kind of, you know, streamline. Let's just put it nicely, streamline in the Marvel Cinematic Universe for the masses. And I'm not sure which one, like where they're going with this, but I know they're all connected. I just don't know. For once, I don't know, like automatically, like, okay, this is the Marvel lore we're going to touch on, and this is what we're going to pull. And I'm kind of weirdly excited by that because I like not knowing, because I live in a hell where I have to know so many things so far in advance. And there is a small part of me that loves to just go back to being a fan and just having to see this stuff and kind of like then react to it after I'm surprised and all jazzed up and like running around. But yeah, for the right now, I'm not completely sure what they're going to do. I think shout out to everybody who's put together the design aesthetics, because you know how Marvel Studios is very sneaky and purposeful with that, so that rings under, Kang City look just like the rings from Shang-Chi, look just like the other rings. What are the other ones? Does anybody remember off
Bands
the top of
from
your head?
Miss Marvel.
The bangle.
Yeah.
Yes, the bands from the Bangles from Miss Marvel. Yes, that's right. So yeah, I mean, I feel like maybe Kevin Feige is going to come out of this laughing at us all because he's like, you questioned me in Phase 4, but I was playing 4D chess and like none of you knew it, and I'm gonna have to eat a lot of crow, but I'm used to that now, so it's all good.
The visuals from that trailer were just absolutely stunning, from from quantum like the quantum realm itself to Kang's comic accurate design. I also thought it was pretty interesting how like the trailer we had heard about from San Diego Comic-Con. I just want to take this moment to say my brain was so frazzled and I couldn't say words at the beginning when we introed this pod, and I really feel like I've just settled in now. I'm feeling good.
Proud of you.
Thank you. The SDCC trailer that we heard about, it was dark. This one, not so much. But that one was also, it painted Kang very much as an antagonist, where this one, it almost just seemed like he was an overarching presence. He was trying to work with Scott, he was bargaining with him. Do you think he is going to be the main 1A antagonist in this film? Or will maybe Bill Murray and some others that we're going to meet in the quantum realm kind of be the main foe throughout the film? And then as it goes on, we kind of learn Kang has been pulling the strings and he's going to play a much bigger part in the future. Because at this time, like, if you're not one of us and heard about the SDCC trailer, if you haven't seen Loki, for example, you may not have any idea that he's a bad guy. This could be a Mysterio Far From Home situation, like our friend Liam Crowley mentioned on Phase Zero earlier today on their live show. Shout out to Liam; he did a phenomenal job on that show today.
Shout out to Liam.
Um,
I've never met him
so
IRL, but he's an art rock star part of our team now.
yeah, that's the same here. Never met him in real life. I know Jaden, who's in chat right now, has met him. They've linked up, but Liam is Liam is the best. He's one of our favorite internet friends we've met along here so far.
Also, not to start something, but he is now the official tallest person at comicbook.com. This is a
Dude,
thing.
he's
And
so
He's a
tall.
giant.
yeah,
Yeah.
he is now. I believe it. I might have to measure him and Aaron, but I mean, yeah, let's just say that. Yeah, now he ranks the tallest. I'm just starting stuff. Stop.
Look,
Starting
if you guys are ever if you guys are ever putting together a little basketball squad and you need a point guard, someone to throw it up to Aaron and Liam and BD and those giants you guys have over there, you let me know.
Yeah, I will be on the side passing out Gatorade, being like, man, look at those guys go. But yeah, where were we?
Same.
I mean, we're so far out of the point. I'm sorry, I have taken us so far off the point.
That's all right. That's what we do here. We have our loose rundowns, but at
No,
the
I
end of
get
the
it.
day, we're just friends talking about nerd shit.
I mean, I got to be honest. My favorite part of this so far was hearing about your adoption stories. I love that you guys like. I love doing that same thing. Like, if there's a mess, you just got to put it in the show. You're like, here it is. Like, this is what we're doing.
You just got to roll with it,
Pets.
especially in a live
Oh
show.
yeah, man. Oh, those are my favorite
That-
parts. I've had my kids run in front of the show. We've each gotten sick on shows before. Like, I've literally had to lean over and be like, just puke in a bucket during Comic Book Nation before. It gets wild, man.
TJ
It's
and
a
I have
wild
both done
ride we
that.
do.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
it gets wild sometimes. So,
And we're
yeah,
lucky too
shout out to you
because
guys.
we if we screw up, we just got to apologize to each other. We don't have Jim Viscardi as the as like hiding behind the scenes ready to
I'm
get
sure
mad
he's
if we
like
screw
on a
up.
live stream right now. He could be popping in here any minute if I start to talk too crazy. But no, Jim's a great boss. I gotta say he takes a big gamble just letting me ramble every week. And shout out to him. I'm sure that caused him a fair amount of anxiety. So shout out to Jim Discardi, but keep his opinions in jail where they belong. For real. But, yeah.
Jim's the best. I feel like I've earned, whether he agrees with this, I have no idea. I feel like I've earned the chance to give him some jabs and rib him a little bit just because of the amount of subs I've gifted in the comic book Twitch chat during CVN and Phase Zero. So I'm allowed to.
I have given my own self the right to do this thing, so
Yeah.
it's happening.
I'm allowed to be mean to
I
him
respect that.
because I
I mean,
said so. So
I think Jim would
we'll
agree.
hope
I
it's the
mean,
case.
Jim would agree with you to a fair extent there. So I don't doubt that. So I think you're right.
As long
about
as
that.
As long as I throw in at the end, I loved Moon Knight. I loved Werewolf
Yeah.
Wolf by Night. They were great. So, do we think we are going to be getting main antagonist Kang right from the get-go, or will he be kind of overarching sidelines, trying to make some deals, trying to make some friends at the beginning? What do you think, Kofi?
I think that when Kevin Feige said, and then when they picked Jonathan Majors, who has been, I mean, just killing it on the acting front in such a short amount of time, and they said,
And
"There's
on the
been so
handsome
much
front."
of this." Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I mean, that man just strips off his shirt. It's crazy. And if you've seen like Lovecraft Country or the Western that they did, I forget the name of the Western off the top of my head. Again, I'm too tired right now. But the one with Idris Elba, like, and
It
all
was
them, like, yeah.
perfect execution on Marvel's behalf to drop this trailer, one fresh off the heels of incredibly ripped, jacked, buff, shirtless Jonathan Majors in the Creed 3 trailer, and then also right after Black Adam, right on at the same time as the Henry Cavill post. That was just pretty masterfully marketed.
Oh yeah, no, Marvel's not playing around. They know what they are doing, and they have learned through some much trial and error that I've been around to see. But I think they said there's gonna be a lot of this phase that sits on him. I mean, they're doing an entire, Infinity War was an undercover Thanos movie, but now they're not even undercover. It's just they're giving the Kang Dynasty its own movie. So who this guy is got to be crazy complex and multifaceted. We know they're taking time to kind of introduce him as a villain. We don't even know all the ways if we're going to still pull some like crazy young Avengers, Iron Lad, like the good younger Kang type deal with this and how that's going to get pulled off. And it just feels like, yeah, they're going to do more than just Arch Kang as a villain, and that what's going to be complex about him as opposed to like Thanos, who just had this kind of, sociopathic like worldview that has somehow caught on as a worldview now. Is he how he'll have seen so much, and by the time we get through this movie, we might under even flip us around and be like, oh, like we kind of side with Kang, we know what he's seen, but like he'll have seen so much and been through so many different versions of reality. Like what his perspective is could be truly the scariest thing if he can convince somebody like Scott Lang, you know,
Oh, I think we just lost. We may have just lost Kofi there. So,
that he
yeah, like this. Oh,
remains.
he's back. He's back.
Oh, I dropped for a second.
We lost you
See,
for
You
a
dropped
sec.
for a
I
sec.
told you. I told you. I told you. I said it in the beginning. Like this is what happens.
You're
This
back.
whole
You're
thing.
back though.
Am I still really here?
You're there.
You're
You're
back.
there.
You're here.
Can confirm. Oh no! Right as we said
All
it.
right, maybe. Oh god, this whole
So
thing's
I
like
th-
freaking out, isn't it? Am I?
Yeah, it
little
is.
bit, a
I'll,
little
I'll
bit.
take you. I'll take us off of something you said, and then we will swap over to Black Adam. But there's one more thing I want to touch on from a theory standpoint. When you brought up a potential good Kang, Franklin Richards, Iron Lad, do we think one we see some Kang variants in this movie? We'll stick it quick. Yes, yes or no, and maybe here's why. But do we think we see some Kang variants, and do we think if that is the story they're going with, that that it could be a Richards as Iron Lad here? Do we get to see some other descendants in this movie? I'll go to you first, Garrett.
I don't think so. No, I don't think we're getting any variants in this.
What about you, Kofi?
Am I still alive? Am I still here?
You're alive.
You're here.
Oh, all right. Yeah, I think we're gonna get more complex versions of these variants. I think that weird claymation thing we got in Loki could be more significant than we thought, and I think that'll give somebody like Jonathan Majors a lot to work with. And I'm wondering if they do Council of Kangs and what that all is like. But so far, we've been caught off guard by everything. Like the Immortus we got was Immortus, but just not the way we thought. And I'm kind of really curious how they go with this guy as the even the concept of a villain. So I'm really curious to see it.
So I think we get Kang variants, just not in the movie. But yeah, I think Loki does do a wonderful job of setting up like a ton of different Kang variants, whether we know them from the comics or they just bust out a new one randomly, which I don't think is out of the question. It would be kind of crazy. But I don't necessarily think we're going to see them in Ant-Man, but I think that they're going to pop up in a ton of different projects throughout this next phase, 100%.
Yeah, I would love to see maybe like the one of the credit scenes of Ant-Man being Kang kind of revealing how many like if the Council of Kangs is a reveal,
That would
like
be fire. Yeah.
like he goes back and he's just like, I dealt with this Ant-Man guy, I don't know, maybe we just need an invasion or something like that, like and it's a whole room full of him, like that'd be crazy, right? So I don't know.
I
That'd
like
be
I like
interesting.
that. I like that. I think if we do see a variant, it's likely to be a post credit scene, and I would prefer it to be a post credit scene. But we'll see.
I agree. I think
February.
that would be a Council of Kang post-credit scene would be a pretty good lead into Loki season 2. I think that would be pretty perfect. But we have another movie that we're gonna have to that we're excited to see before it. That's Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, and even before that, this past weekend we got to see Black Adam, DC's latest movie they put out. And Kofi, I know that you like the Marvel stuff, but you're a DC guy at heart, are you not?
I've been accused of this before, and it's true. I am. I do love DC stuff. Before I was even able to pick up a comic, DC, like so many kind of young men of the '80s and early '90s, like I was wearing Superman underwear before I could even wear a comic. I was trying to be Batman. Batman '89 changed my life. Yada yada yada. You know the type. So yeah, that's a fair statement.
So as such a big fan, how do you feel like actually no, before we even get into Black Adam, I want to know outside of kind of Batman 89, outside of comics when you could start reading them, who were your kind of big childhood loves? Cuz I'm in the midst of rewatching Young Justice right now. I adore this show. I loved season 1 and 2 and I'm watching season 3 now for the first time. But for me, the two big DC ones growing up that were kind of my heart and soul that I stuck to every week were Batman Beyond and Static Shock. Who were the two that like who were the few that really stuck to your soul?
Wow. Man, I was in that crazy time of like the late 80s when like I mean, so like Ninja Turtles was a big one for me and I got into the comics of Ninja Turtles, which was way different. And I don't think my parents knew that. Like the original Eastman and Laird Ninja Turtles was way violent. But yeah, they didn't know that. But I started like I said Batman and Superman were easy go-tos and I even knew like who Wonder Woman is, a Green Lantern. I would run around with little Green Lantern decoder plastic rings and things like that. So those were all my big go-tos, but then it was easy again. So there's some people that just transcend everything. So Spider-Man, of course, I became aware of, but I always gravitated towards X-Men. I liked a lot about X-Men. I think for me, as just a person, in the world, it was just a good story that resonated with me. These special people who people don't get, and things like that. But this is not my therapist couch, so let's just say I got it and I
It
just
can
liked
be.
it. I got it and I liked it. It resonated with me personally, and I just loved that kind of idea of this like community of kind of crazy people living, came together. So that was all good to me, and that's why X-Men, when I did get to read, was the first comic I picked up, was the kind of 92 X-Men run with Claremont and Jim Lee and all that stuff. But by then, yeah, I had had countless DC stuff kind of going in, and I knew my fair share of DC lore. I tried to build my own utility belts and done all that crazy stuff, and all of that. So yeah, that's my history right there.
I love that. That's hardcore.
I love it so much. As the chat is talking about their favorites growing up and stuff, and young baby CJ talking about Teen Titans Go being his favorite DC cartoon, and
Oh,
I want to shout out CJ to CJ if because he hasn't seen Young Justice yet. One, this first two seasons are just top tier animation and superhero TV. Two, season three, I've been enjoying it, not quite to the same level, but I've been enjoying it. But specifically, the reason why I want to pick out CJ talking about Teen Titans Go here is there was an episode in season three where it's all going on in Beast Boy's mind, and there's like Teen Titans Go spin-off and animation and theme song music going on in the show, but it's called Doom Patrol Go. And so it's all the characters from the Doom Patrol TV show. They're voiced by the Teens Titan Go voice actors, uh, talking to Beast Boy, who's voicing himself, but in Teen Titan Go animation. It is bonkers. I wish I was on Inedible as I was watching it, but it was pretty cool stuff. And it had a nice little Teen Titans Go crossover. So check that one out, CJ. But Kofi, what did you think of Black Adam? How did you think it fits within the DCU?
well, first of all, let me say that both my kids have taken to Teen Titans Go. They're 7 and 4, and when they were my 7-year-old was 4, she loved it. Now my 4-year-old, he's just discovered it like literally in the last 5 days, um, and he is now obsessed. So I'm back to watching like nonstop Teen Titans Go again, which is an okay life for me. As for Black Adam, I saw Black Adam and I would rate it about a 3 out of 5. Or Todd McFarlane asked me this point blank. I don't know if our live stream was working for this, but he like demanded point blank that I tell him right on the live stream, like what out of 10, and which I hate the 10 scale. I'm sorry, Todd McFarlane, but I hate the 10 scale. I usually go out of 5, but out of 10, I said about a 6.5 to 7 out of 10 tops. But I thought Black Adam was like a really I said I think I tweeted it would be comparable to like a really good 2000s superhero movie. And that might sound like a dig to some people, but I don't think it is. It's just a modest franchise starter. I think it does some things well. I think it does some things that, and I'm eating crow now because I guess somebody saw our stream somewhere when I was complaining about Black Adam always floating, because now there's all these articles out like, let me break down the floating of Black Adam for you, and I'm like, oh boy, here we go. But like things like that that were just kind of over the top and unnecessary. I love Kwame Colette Sarah, I think. Did they nail that? Anyway, I love him as a kind of B movie director of all those Liam Neeson movies I love, or The Shallows, and other things he's done, like the horror stuff he's done. But I think this was a little bit bigger than what he could, bite off of. And I get the strategy of doing what Marvel did with like people like the Russos, of taking kind of up and coming directors. But this was kind of a phase. That's kind of a phase one Marvel mistake. Is like that guy has his signature. He knows what kind of movies he makes. He's going to be hard to kind of wrangle in. You need to go a little bit lower for like up and coming directors. But I think Black Adam did enough to kind of casually, and I wrote about how it just brings together the Snyder sides, the gun sides, and puts them all in one playground, doesn't make a big thing about it, doesn't do this weird thing they did before where no side would fully acknowledge the other. It was all weird offhanded references. But yeah, there's some. I think they, and I said this on Comic Book Nation. I think they Captain Marveled themselves with some of the ways they tried to do this plot twist stuff that kind of also strangles your story, like the whole fake out about. Are we doing spoilers?
Oh yeah.
So the whole fake out about Teth Adam and his son and all that. It's like you. The marketing and PR side couldn't even decide whether that was a spoiler because they kept saying it, like, oh, he sacrificed him, or his son sacrificed himself for him, and they put it in the trailers. But then it's like this big twist in the movie, like, okay, like we're wasting time on that kind of thing.
It
But
also to me
so
felt super clear that that was The Rock that was telling his son like not to do those
yeah,
things.
yeah, that didn't fool a single person. So that's also what I mean by 2000s. It's like they're using tropes that would have been like in the 2000s after we all just saw Sixth Sense, would have been like, oh my god. But like now it's just like, yes, we've seen so many kind of movies do this. So that was overly convoluted. They could have just, and him kind of coming out, and like I said, the Captain Marvel thing I always reference as a textbook example of that movie caught a lot of flack, but I think that when you do this thing where you're trying to introduce a new character, but it's a character who's brainwashed and controlled by an inhibitor chip, who can't be fully personable because they're like half robot because of this thing, you're already starting off, at a disadvantage. And so Black Adam's just coming out and the confused, like just staring at stuff and being confused about stuff gets a little weird. And I don't know where they wanted to go with this story about who this guy was and how he is. But by the end, I think we settled into a nice place. Like, all I give a shit about is Kondak. I'll just care about Kondak. I liked all that. Like, I wish they had leaned into more of that. I think they were scared of getting too political or whatever. But like, having this country be like, we're always getting fucked over, but like, here's a guy who stands for who we are and all that stuff. I actually like that part of the story. So it was different and distinctive. But I sound like I'm complaining, but I think that Black Adam visually looked really good. I meant to say this during the Ant-Man thing. I think I was building up to it, but Marvel heard me and they made my stream drop. That I can see now how all those Marvel poor technicians had such a hell of a job in Phase 4. When I saw this trailer, I was like, man, that looks gorgeous. Damn, I feel bad for all those Marvel technicians. They were working overtime like this and Black Panther, and I think these two will be the ones that are worth it. But sorry, Thor, like we just did in Doctor Strange, like we really didn't have the time. Like we had to do, people had work to do. Like I get it now. But Black Adam, for all the the criticism, looked really good. The cinematography, the visuals, it looked really good. And I think that we settled into enough of a good place by the end that the second chapter can be a real big improvement on the first. And I'm excited that they're leaning into some of the things we see in DC Comics now, which is having Teth Adam be this kind of anti-hero, per somebody who is a member of the Justice League, but is always that kind of uncertain member you don't know is going to be on mission or have to fight Superman. So I think we settled in a good enough place. But yeah, I I I I think Black Adam was a mixed bag to say the least, and I'll leave it at that.
I said the exact same thing to my wife Ava right after we walked out of the theater, and that was, I think this would have been a very good movie if it came out when it was announced in 2007. Like, I think it would have been very well received and it would have been awesome. And I think Liam, who we talked about earlier when he was on our show last week, he had already seen Black Adam, and his spoiler free review kind of said, look, I went in, I got a large popcorn, I got a large drink, and I turned my brain off and I had a really good time. And I think that's the best way to go about this movie is I enjoyed it. I had fun. There's a lot of things that if you think about them too much, they don't make a lot of sense and it might make you enjoy certain parts a little bit less. But overall, it I thought it was a pretty good time. What did you think, Garrett?
Yeah, one of those things, real quick. Shout out to Carlos. He said this in the chat, and it's something that I thought as well. But setting up the fact that Eternium weapons can hurt him in the very beginning of the movie and then never returning to that is pretty wild, Carlos. I had that exact same thought. Um, but I respect this movie. It is what it is. Like, it is exactly what I thought it was going to be. I don't think if you went into this movie like expecting a groundbreaking, like a Winter Soldier or something that's gonna like flip everything on its head, like you were just wrong, and you were setting your own self up for failure. Um, I had a good time. I did exactly what you did, TJ. I shut my brain off. If something didn't make sense to me, I was like, push that out of your head, and then watch him like just vaporize these people, and it worked. But the highs were high to me. There were some parts that I really enjoyed. There were some jokes where I was like genuinely laughing. I enjoyed the themes that were running throughout, of the colonialism and the Justice Society essentially screwing up Kondak under the guise of like, we're coming to help save you guys, and they're like, we've been here this whole time and you guys have never come, like, why now? And I love that, and I wish that was leaned into a bit more, but I think the highs were high, and I enjoyed that. But I don't have a lot to say about it. I enjoyed it for what it was. I went in like kind of feeling like it was going to be a chore a little bit. Like, I don't necessarily like want to go do this, but it ended up being a good time. I'm glad I did it. I'm happy for The Rock because this is something that's been obviously behind the scenes in the making for so long, 15-ish years. So I'm just happy for him, that his passion project is finally getting released to the public, and he gets to do this for hopefully a longer time. And we get Henry back as Superman. So that's another exciting part, obviously.
Exactly. Henry is back, not just in the trailer, but on Instagram telling us he's got more things coming as well. It's all very exciting stuff. And to be honest, that probably was like my biggest excitement portion of the movie. Um, and even though, like, I feel like in terms of reviewing, I mostly have negative things to say, even though I did enjoy the movie. Like, I liked it. Um, but a few of those things that I wanted us to touch on next are the JSA, and also kind of leading into that was one of the qualms I had, and I do think part of this had to do with how long this movie has been in the making, but it was a lot of kind of culturally blind casting with non-Egyptian actors kind of set in a place that was supposed to be of um, Egyptian descent, with Adam Smasher not being a Jewish character, The Rock's Kandak accent just not kind of being a thing, which is something our friend AF brought up as a point that bothered him quite a bit to me in our chat earlier today. But the one thing that I kind of want to focus on now is the JSA. And so good and bad with the JSA. One, bad, I didn't like Adam Smasher, to be honest with you. I kind of thought the weird Deadpool mask and Deadpool
What?
inflections as he was giving non-Deadpool-y jokes kind of bothered me. It was just like, I've seen this before and it's not as good. That's kind of how I felt about it. Kofi, I'm forgetting, what is the name of the wind-based protagonist again for the JSA?
Oh, I I was going to talk about her, and I totally knew, and then you just asked me, and it just
Tornado Lady.
Somebody in the chat remind me. Either way, I thought she was really cool. I thought the visuals were fantastic. I can't tell. We may have actually lost Kofi again, but the visuals with her were just absolutely incredible. Cyclone. There
Cyclone.
it is. Cyclone.
I like
Thank you,
Tornado
CJ.
Lady Betty. Let's go with Tornado Lady.
Tornado Lady Betty.
Better.
Cyclone. The visuals with her was absolutely cool. Super cool. Henry Winkler as the old
Yeah.
Adam Smasher, I thought was kind of interesting as well.
I love that, and I went with my parents for my birthday, and they were like stoked about it. By the way, real quick tangent, but like before the movie started, my dad had no idea what he was in for. Didn't really want to go, but was like, "All right, it's your birthday, we're doing it." Before the movie started, I was like, "It's a movie with like The Rock, bro. So I think you'll be fine. You'll like it." He was like, "The Rock? Like, who is that?" Uh-oh, that's not good.
We lost
Anyways,
Kofi, and now we got things. We'll roll with it. Whatever. It's
yeah,
one show.
yeah,
We'll do what
yeah,
we gotta do.
exactly.
There's a
So
close up of my face here.
So, anyways, he's like, "No, I don't know who The Rock is." My dad said, "I don't know who The Rock is." I was like, "You don't know who The Rock is? Like, literally one of the most famous people on the planet." And then he came on, and he was like, "Oh, I know that guy." Yeah, it was really anticlimactic. But my mom, this is my favorite part of the movie, and it's not even in the movie, but it's my favorite part of the movie. My mom, at the very beginning, when they're like in the tomb and they release or open release Black Adam for the first time, and they're setting up like the guy on the team whose name I forget, but he ends up getting the crown with Sabak and turning into the demon guy. But my mom leans over to my dad and goes, "This guy's gonna be a bad guy." It was obviously the most obvious thing ever. And then when it pays off, she leans back in and goes, "I told you so." So shout out mom and dad. Thank you guys for going with me on my birthday. But that was my favorite part.
We got Kofi back. I will say, Ruben, if you're unaware, when you put the technical difficulty screen up, that does also put the music up over the conversation. So, but apparently it sounds really cool, and it sounds like Garrett was giving an inspirational presidential speech. So, Garrett for president, he would do better than anybody we've ever had. Let's make it happen. But yeah,
those responsibilities.
I want to talk about the rest of the JSA, Hawkman and Dr. Fate. And I loved Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate. I thought he was so cool. I loved Hawkman. I thought he was incredible. There were a couple parts of each character that did kind of bother me, like with Hawkman stuff. It just kind of felt like he was a little too colonizer-y for me. Like it was
Kind of a dick.
Yeah,
Can we just say it? He was kind of a dick.
Yeah, like I just felt like he was super cool, super awesome. I just wanted a little bit more empathy from him. With Dr. Fate, I thought he was so incredibly cool. The one thing that bothered me a little bit, now I totally understand when you get Pierce Brosnan for Dr. Fate, you don't want to have him in a helmet all the time because it's Pierce Brosnan and he's fantastic. But they brought up at the beginning, like, oh, when he puts on that helmet, it's like he's possessed by a totally different person. I didn't see Naboo once. Like, I did not see Naboo taking over Dr. Fate one single time, and I wanted that. I wanted just one time for us to get full Lord of Order Naboo just saying, "Screw this, I'm taking over, let's do it." But we didn't kind of get that. And I get it's not the Dr. Fate movie, but I was kind of hoping for that. What did you think of those two characters, Kofi?
All right, I'm going to use my time to be brief, just in case. But to say, I thought that I was okay with Hawkman because I liked that they did the subtle suggestions to let you know, like, this is Hawk World Hawkman. And I always think that Hawk World Hawkman is much more of a dick. He's a
Mm.
cop, he's a dick, and like that's just who he is. And I thought Aldous Hodge played that really well. And he's
I
arrogant,
thought,
and
yeah.
yeah, and
Sorry,
and
continue.
as my son said today, because I was reading him like a little DC bedtime storybook. He's like, he's basically like Thor. When he saw a picture of Hawkman, I was like, yeah, I mean, kind of like he is kind of like, asshole Thor. So like I wasn't mad at that. Dr. Fate, I think that yeah, the questions about Naboo and all that stuff I had as well, but Pierce Brosnan is just so damn charming that seeing him just sit in a chair watching other people fight was like a highlight now, even though it was kind of a weird cop out. Um, but yeah, and Cyclone, I wish I could have known more. I felt Cyclone was very generic and just kind of there. And Atom Smasher, I was okay with because I thought less Deadpool, more Spider-Man-y with his kind of like childlikeness and him eating food all the time as a motif. I thought was kind of funny. So he didn't bother me, but I was with you. There's a whole in medias race thing where they just throw you into this story where the JSA is already established and you're supposed to put together these pieces. But some of the pieces and some of the sketches were much more well done. Like I felt like Hawkman, I knew about Atom Smasher, I knew enough about. Cyclone's a total mystery, and Doctor Fate. There's some weird inconsistencies with like what's going on with this character here, who we know is like a very tortured thing, and you could retcon that with a movie about how he was tortured and then came to some kind of balance with Naboo and all that stuff. And hopefully they get smart and do something like that because Pierce Brosnan was awesome and could carry that kind of movie. But it I don't want to think too much about Black Adam because like it's like wet paper. If I push on it too hard, it's just going to start to fall apart underneath my fingertips. And like I was okay. I think by now I was just had the lowered expectations of DC to say, wow, they actually made Hawkman look cool on screen and he looked badass. And I
Hmm.
will say the fight sequences and the action sequences in this were well done. You could tell where the budget went, like the actual battles between superpowered characters in the JSA, Hawkman and Black Adam in that room, and what's his name's room, and all that stuff like looked great. So yeah, the characterization 5, battle sequences 9. That's where I'm about with that.
I like it. I think that makes complete sense. You'd think Hawkman would be less of a dick since he inherited the X Mansion. Like, you'd feel when you get a jet that comes out of a basketball court that Professor X personally gave you, like, you'd think you'd be a happier guy. But Aldous Hodge was fantastic. He did a awesome job with that. My next kind of question is like that I didn't really get, and this is what you said. It's like wet paper. If you push too hard, it's going to fall through. But I'm wondering if either of you have some type of answer for me. And it's like there was rumors that like this is the same. This is going to be the same world as Stargirl from the TV show. This is going to be a different Earth than the Snyder movies that we've seen so far. Blah 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 blah. I don't I know I'm just supposed to turn my brain off and I did it while I was in the movie, but as I think back to the movie, I can't really help but analyze a little bit like where was this going on, because it really doesn't make sense to me that there is a JSA with new recruits and Hawkman and Dr. Fate leading the charge per Amanda Waller when there's also Superman, Batman, The Flash, Aquaman clearly having been public and saved the world on people's posters and being referenced all the time. Those two things don't really add up. I feel like it's got to be one or the other. Garrett, what did you think? And then we'll throw it to Kofi.
I'm sorry, can you ask that again? I was responding to my mother in the YouTube chat and my brain turned off.
You're good. Thank you so much for being here, Mama Blaney. Kofi, I'll throw that one to you first.
It's okay, I got it. I assumed and kind of wrote about that it felt like it had to be a time jump. Clearly I felt like Amanda Waller, the whole Amanda Waller of it all her not trying to trick criminals into doing these crazy kinds of things and blowing up their heads suggests that there was progress maybe after the Suicide Squad, which could have led easily to formations of things like the JSA, which obviously seems to work with government agencies and is like government liaison, whereas the Justice League is probably just its own thing. And we're like, Hawkman, you too much of a dick to join our team. You go do your own thing. And he was like, all right. I just assumed, and I'm making shit up. This is not in the movie. It is not explained. This is me just filling in gaps. That this is after the Suicide Squad and the Gunverse and the Snyderverse of it all. Some years of year or two, whatever you want to say, time jump, and this is the new status quo. Amanda Waller kind of has this balance of, like I said, working with superheroes instead of trying to blow up criminals. There's a JSA, not just a JLA. And, how you fit in Henry Winkler to all this, I don't know. That's a retcon problem I don't have to solve. There was apparently an old JSA, just like in the comics. How nobody knew about them, I don't know. That's not my retcon
Jay
problem. But
Garrick was out there.
yeah, it just feels
Maybe
like
this
this was. I'm sorry. Go ahead, please. By all means,
maybe
help
this is
me.
all going to be answered in the Flash.
Yeah.
But like I just still
Oh
can't
man.
have high hopes for that movie with Ezra Miller at the helm. Seeing Noah Centineo as Adam Smasher needing to eat food all the time just made me pissed off that I don't have Wally West, and it made me hope like hell that this Flash 2 script that has already been written is a Wally West story, and that's how they're going to get away from Ezra Miller. But I don't know. I think that's I don't I think that is the kind of the plan for their continuity to get reshifted with that movie, but we don't really know. Garrett, what did you think of all of it, and what are your closing thoughts on Black Adam? We saw Superman in the post-credit scene. We saw Harcourt working with them. Obviously, Amanda Waller was in this movie. What's next for Black Adam, and what do you think is next for Superman?
You know what? I don't even know what's next for DC. Day to day,
DC doesn't know either.
if they're gonna release a movie, if they're gonna chuck it into the fire pit and burn it in effigy, I don't know. So Henry Cavill says he's back as Superman. We can all be hyped, but until something is confirmed to be happening, then I'm gonna hold the brakes. I'm gonna put my foot on the brakes for this one because I feel like that's a hard question to answer, to be honest with you. But closing thoughts on Black Adam. I don't know how many more times I'm gonna watch it, but props to The Rock. I'm proud of him. Proud of him for getting this done. It's been a long time coming. There's some really good parts, some really awesome action, and I'm down to watch Henry and Dwayne duke it out a couple more times. So
Throw Zachary Levi in there as well. Kofi, do you think the hierarchy of the DC universe has changed? What do you think? What are your closing thoughts?
I think that Black Adam definitely adds a new dynamic, and like I said, I hope they lean into this. What kind of like some smart DC Comics creators have done in the last few years. I hope that in the next movie they can give Black Adam more of the personality that he has in the comics, because that's one of the better things about his character is his actual personality. But I think that he should be a member, and they should start building a real Justice League, like for the next Justice League, or just call it the Justice League or Justice League of America or something. But that will
Justice
have
League
people
Unlimited.
like, yeah, oh man, that would actually make all those hardcore fans come out right out off the bat and then just stuff it with heroes. But
Have the
having
trailer
people
be
like,
that music from the theme song
oh
from the show.
yeah, I mean, if they did some spin on that, that would make bank, right? I mean, just with the hardcore fan opening weekend, turnout would be crazy. But
We've
getting
said
people
Kevin
like,
Feige hire us on this show lots. This is the first time. DC, hire us. We could
yeah,
do this shit.
but just building like an actual Justice League with like all-star talent, which is what they want to do. Like Gal's big enough, Jason Momoa is big enough, Henry Cavill's big enough. Whatever baller move they can pick, they can pull with a Batman. If they get Ben back and do that or something crazy, those dump trucks full of money Zaslav has can come out at any time. But if they build a bigger Justice League with just stars and it's like adding people like The Rock as Black Adam, like that's more interesting, and especially with a character like Black Adam, because him versus Superman just needs to be an action sequence, not a movie. They have some disagreement. Somebody gets possessed. Maybe we loop back to that Snyder stuff that Superman's out of control, but now you have somebody who can actually hold him at bay while somebody gets something done. That kind of stuff could be real exciting.
But hear
Not
me
just
out.
sell tickets.
What if their moms had the same name and they that stopped them from it could
My
work,
wife's
okay?
name.
3 hours of it could work. Trust me.
My wife's name was Ma'artha. How did you know that? How did you know that?
Hey, it could work. Just hear me out.
But that'd be a major twist. It'd be like,
At the end of the movie,
and my wife's name was
Shazam-
My wife's name is Serenzi, but in Kandakis that means Martha. How did you know that? Yeah, no, I don't know, man. That'd be crazy.
at the end of
Martha
the
Moon.
at the end of the next movie, Shazam and Black Adam are gonna realize that they have the same wizard, and they're gonna bond over that and stop fighting.
I mean, I do need to see that all of it.
We have the
Like, I
same
do need to
wizard.
see the Shazam part of it. Like, and I hope they lean into the classic Black Adam part of it, because this movie kind of did muddle that whole thing of, yeah, why was this guy in prison? Because he flipped out like once. No, he's supposed to be the rogue, all the wizard's power gone in the wrong direction, a mistake they made. So him and Shazam, that's an interesting story. I hope they do, because The Rock hasn't been about it, but like, I do want to see that. Like, Billy Batson having him be like, oh shit, like this is how it goes if I don't do this right. Like, this guy.
Yeah,
I end up like, and him just trash talking with Black Adam would be amazing.
agreed.
Yep, I agree. That would be really cool. This movie really made me wish DC had their shit together, and really makes me hope that it happens in the future with a potential Zatanna movie that may or may not be scrapped, or may or may not be shipped to another movie or shipped to another studio. I just hope that movie gets made so bad, and I'd love for it to be in continuity, because it would get me excited about things like, after just watching Young Justice, that maybe some type of plot would be that helmet disappeared after he died, and Zatara has to put it on, and that leads to Zatanna kind of taking over whatever Zatara's role was in that movie, something like that. That would be incredible stuff. um I'm already super excited for Blue Beetle. I wish I could be excited for The Flash. I'm super excited for more Henry Cavill as Superman. We're cautiously optimistic because there's lots of good potential in the future, but until we see a little more of it, we can't get too excited.
I think, just jumping in, like, they should learn from Peacemaker. Zatanna is, and we said this on Comic Book Nation, is and always has been one of the easiest layups you could do as a prestige series. Something to give the DCEU like an HBO level series, like kind of like Star Wars is doing with Andor. Um, that's an easy layup. You could even get Huame, Colette, Sarah to actually do that one and do it well. But like you said, just do what they did with Peacemaker. Bounce right out of what you just did in the movie. Like you said, the helmet of Naboo is now empty. Somebody needs to fill it. Follow the Lord. Just put Zatara in it, and then deal in a series. I would love to see an HBO Max series of her having to step into her father's shoes about being this magical protector, flashbacks to like how he brought her up and all the crazy stuff he did, and her just taking on mystical threats, and by the end of it just start setting us up for that Justice League Dark movie from that series. And DC just can keep doing this, like these movie spin outs into these awesome kind of series into the newer movies. Like, why not? And Zatanna has been such an easy layup. It's so good. You just get a really great actress. The kind of Joanna Constantine episode of Sandman made me a believer. Like, yeah, you guys really need to get on this, like, sooner before later. It's something Marvel. I mean, yeah, they have Doctor Strange, but this would be kind of different because the whole street magician versus the occult, kind of how those episodes flow is a little bit She-Hulk, a little bit occult stuff, like There's a lot of wiggle room, and yeah, it would just be kind of different. And so, I don't know, just do it.
A lot of
That'd be
potential.
cool. A lot of potential characters like Constantine, like Doctor Fate, all these different things that could be weaved in. It could be a lot of fun. Kofi, thank you so much for talking some DC with us, talking some Marvel with us. Before we get out of here, let the people know where they can find you on socials and tell us about Comic Book Nation.
We're just Comic Book Nation. We do it all for geek culture, which means we just are very busy trying to absorb a lot of content every week and break it all down for both hardcore fans and mainstream people trying to learn a little bit more. You can find me at Comic Book Nation or at Kofi Outlaw. You can also subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts or our YouTube page as well. Thank you guys for having me on to talk DC. It's been good to really just get out and decompress and talk some stuff about Black Adam. You can also all find me guest starring on What Is Podcast X if you guys haven't heard that. Sometimes I can't promote that on Comic Book Nation, but that's a podcast I do a guest starring spot with my old Screen Rant editor buddies, Ben Kendrick and Rob Keys. We do that every week. I bring one drink, and that's how long they have me for. And every week we just do the uncensored version of our jobs because Rob is still running Screen Rant, Collider, and CBR. I'm still at comicbook.com, and we just let loose and talk unfiltered about what we think and share some old stories from the industry and crazy things we've been through and stuff like that. So check that out as well. And thank you guys, Agents of Fandom, for having me on, and hopefully we'll get to return the favor.
That would be very, very cool. Being on Comic Book Nation would definitely be a bucket list thing for sure. Garrett, before we get out of here, is there anything I've forgotten about other than telling people to hit the like button on their way out, subscribe, follow us wherever you get your podcast, stuff like that?
Check out aofandom.com to get some super hot merch. Shout out our incredible producer, Ruben. And thank you, everyone in the chat.
Absolutely. Thank you, people in the chat. Kofi, thank you so much again for joining us. This has been a blast, and we've been envious of your work at Black Adam for a really Black Adam is just this is in my brain. I was gonna say this has been
You
our Black
started
Adam
out
review.
slipping up, you're ending
I
slipping
read
up, but the
it.
middle was really strong.
I had a thing beside me that was like end with this like this has been our Black Adam review, and then I looked at it, and then that was all I was able to think about.
I hate when that happens.
I know your work at Comic Book Nation has been like an inspiration for us. You guys are a staple in the industry, and so I'm thankful we got to talk Black Adam with you. There it is.
There you go. That's better than my White Adam joke that got me all the awesome comments. Yeah. Oh man.
The other thing I wanted to bring up before
streams.
we get out live streams, exactly right. The other thing I wanted to get out before we depart today is you brought up being such a big X-Men fan. Check out our 2 recent interviews up on the website and the Agents of Fandom YouTube page. First with Lenora Zan, the voice of Rogue.
Rogue, I saw that. Yeah.
And then just the very next, she's so nice. She's so incredible. And then the very next week, we got to talk with the Newton brothers, who, of course, will be scoring X-Men 97 and have done all kinds of crazy work in the horror industry. So check that out. We're out of here before I stumble on more words. We are ending the podcast the same way we started it. Thanks for everyone who tuned in. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Peace.